and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be speaking about my labour and delivery story of this little man here. This is Aiden. Hiya. He is just over 6 weeks now. So I'm just getting around to filming this. Do you know what? It's just brought back so many emotions. In the first few weeks I just was not ready to sit and film it, but I am now. So to start with, my due date, 40 weeks, came and went. I was due the 21st of May and no sign of baby. One sec, I'm going to pop him down. Okay, so this is how we're going to have to do this. Yeah, so 40 weeks came and went, no proper sign of baby. I've been having like early labour symptoms for the past few weeks, probably from about 37 weeks, so like I was always assuming something was going to happen. However, nothing happened. So 40 weeks plus 1 day I went to my midwife appointment and I had a lovely membrane sweep, and there the midwife could tell me that I was actually already 3 to 4 centimeters dilated, so early labour had already started, and she was like, oh, it'll be any day now. Nope. Skip forward to 8 more days over. So 29th of May was where I thought right, something is gonna happen, because about 11 p.m. that night I had my bloody show, and that was the first sign of labour with my daughter. So I was like, right, that's it, things are definitely gonna start now. And yeah, so I just went to bed that night, had my bloody show, went to bed as normal, thought, right, better get some sleep because I might wake up in the middle of the night. I didn't wake up in the middle of the night, but I did wake up about 6:30. I just went for a pee, got back in bed, and bam, that was my first contraction. I was like, oh my goodness, like that was already painful. So I just thought, right, I'll just lie here, see if it was just one, see if any more come. And yep, definitely more contractions came. So I got out of bed, I just left Mark sleeping because I didn't want to disturb him just yet, just in case it would take ages to progress. So yes, went through to the living room, I got my little ball out, was bouncing on that, thought, right, just watch a little YouTube video, was just sort of chilling out, and then like they were just getting a bit too painful, so I started timing them, and they were probably coming about every 3 minutes in the beginning, and it was at this point now where I literally couldn't even like sit on the ball. And this is what the midwife told me. She said, you know, when your contractions start, they will come full force since I'm already dilated to 3 to 4 centimeters, which she was so right. So yeah, I eventually ended up standing up over the because we've like open plan living room, so like our kitchen and our living room in the same bit. So I just sort of like where I found most comfortable in the beginning was sort of leaning over the kitchen countertops. I was just like leaning there for a while, breathing through them, and I had been practicing hypnobirthing, so I had my music in my earphones, so like everything was just sort of zoned out. I was breathing through them and everything was going pretty well. You know, I was able to breathe through the contractions really well and use my visualizations, which I practiced before as well with the hypnobirthing. So yeah, and then eventually, probably about 7:30, I thought, right, or 7:30, I went through to go get Mark, and I was like, right, the baby's coming. And he didn't really think much of it, so he just sort of got up, waddled about, got his cup of tea, and I was standing there having painful contractions, like, what are you doing? But yeah, so they were coming full force, and about 8 o'clock I was like, right, Mark, it's time to call a midwife because this is getting real. And I just sort of wanted some sort of people there. Oh yeah, so should really explain, if you didn't know, we'd planned for a home birth. So we had all the kit in, you know, we were on call for the midwives and everything like that. So we'd all planned for that, you know, we had everything to set the room out. So yeah, all we had to do was phone the midwives and they would come out. So we phoned them, and then by speaking to them, they just sort of sent 2 midwives out because they knew, you know, things were happening quickly. So yeah, by this point, by the time the midwives arrived, I'd moved from standing and my legs were getting tired. I was just sort of getting tired. So I'd moved to the living room floor, started just leaning over like big long footstool storage boxes, them sort of things. So I was just sort of like kneeling on the floor rather, over them boxes, as I know like that's like a good position. You want to stay upright. I didn't want to get into bed or lie down or anything, so I was just trying to stay upright. And that was just sort of where I was comfortable, and again I was just in my zone. Like I was actually dealing really well with the contractions, even though they're extremely painful. as all of you know, well, all of you mothers know. So I was just sort of had my headphones in and I was just breathing through them, and it was all going really well. I didn't even notice midwives come in. I just sort of turned around. I think like one of them put her hand on my back or something, just let me know we're here. I was like, whoa, like I did not even hear you come in there. So yeah, and they didn't want to disturb me too much, because I think they could also see in my like birth plan that I was just wanting a relaxed sort of hypnobirth. I didn't want to like speak to anyone really. I just sort of wanted to be in my own zone, which I was so in my own zone, and everything was like going perfect, like the way that I'd always imagined it for this home birth to go. So yeah, they were cracking on with the contractions again, just getting stronger and stronger. And so I eventually asked for some gas and air, so the midwife set that up for me. So just breathing with the gas and air, breathing through them. And then I think it was about, I've got little notes here if you see me looking down. So I think it was about 9:30 in the morning I got checked, just to sort of see how dilated I was. You know, this was totally up to me. She said we don't have to do checks, because she was just sort of letting me lead what I wanted. And I was like, well, I sort of want to know, because if you have a home birth, you've only got so many gas bottles for gas and air. So I was like, oh, if I'm only like a 5, then I won't be sucking on the gas and air, but if I'm further, then I will be sucking on it. She checked me and I was 8 centimeters, which is sort of what I felt like. I thought that was where I'd be at. And not long after that, so about 10 o'clock, my waters broke, and that was where things went downhill. So obviously an overdue baby, the chance of meconium really increases, and yep, there was meconium. And I didn't see it actually, because I wasn't really looking. I was, again, like I've said, I was in my zone, so I'll describe it. I was in my zone and the waters broke, and I was like, oh great, waters have gone. And then I hear the midwives speak to each other saying meconium, thick meconium, and it looks old. I was like, damn it, you know, that's just sort of where my vibe sort of got ruined, because obviously I know with meconium you have to go into hospital anyway. So yeah, it just sort of killed it for me. I think from there I, you know, I wasn't as happy. But anyway, so they didn't make the decision to transfer immediately, which sometimes they would if you're having a home birth. You know, if you're not like about to give birth, they'll transfer you into the hospital if there's meconium in the waters. But they thought, right, we'll just wait, because they thought, sorry, 1 second, he's falling asleep there. So they thought that baby would be born like imminently. They thought baby would arrive right after the waters, and you know, baby could be born at home and then we could transfer it in afterwards. But that didn't happen. Although like obviously I was probably nearly fully dilated at this point. Baby wasn't coming down just quite how quickly as they wanted him to. So they thought, you know, maybe half an hour tops or something like that. However, probably an hour and a half went past and still no baby. And I was like sort of pushing, my body was sort of pushing, but it wasn't like huge urge to push like you get at the end. And it's like they were trying to get me to stand up and walk about, but it's just like my pelvis, like everything was just so sore. Obviously just because the baby was trying to come down, but he was just struggling to move down as quick. So like I just couldn't really move. I was just sort of in this really painful, you know, and I didn't know what to do. And I think at this point I just sort of felt like giving up, and I think I remember saying to them, just pull the baby out, just pull the baby out. I was like, I can't do this. So yeah, the pushing stage was definitely the hardest stage for me this time. And again, I was pushing because they were like, right, we really want this baby to be born now, you know, give us some hard pushes. But it's just they weren't seeing him like come down like he should, like, you know, they should see his head or something like that. But that just wasn't happening. And so they thought, right, maybe something's not right, and they didn't want the baby getting tired, so they made the decision, which I respect their decision. In the end, I think I'll be actually glad that I delivered in the hospital, which I'll explain why. So they phoned the ambulance, and they came shortly after. So Mark had to phone his mum and dad, and you know, they live a little bit out of Aberdeen but not too far, but obviously they had to get themselves ready. So he phoned them to come round, so obviously because our daughter Lily was here, phoned them to come look after Lily. So it meant that the ambulance arrived and Mark's mum and dad weren't here yet, and like the two paramedics. Yeah, the 2 paramedics that arrived were so lovely. It was 2 women. I don't know if they sent women deliberately because it was a home birth and obviously it's not going to be pleasant. So yeah, they were lovely. They sort of like spoke me through everything and they were like just reassuring me it's okay, you know, like just everyone was so nice. So they sort of got me on that little wheelchair. And again, I was literally in a t-shirt and no pants, no nothing, just in a t-shirt, you know, just for everybody to see. So they got me onto this chair, they like secured me into it, and then they wheeled me out the house and into the ambulance. And it was my first time I've ever been in an ambulance. And then they got into the ambulance, they sort of checked me over a little bit, and then they put me on the bed. And yeah, so the person that went with me in the ambulance was one of the midwives. It's sort of the midwife that was more focused on the delivery, whilst the other midwife took the notes. So it was the one that was with me, and again, she was just so lovely, telling me it's going to be okay. And it was actually that midwife's first home birth. Bless, I felt a little bit bad for her, but anyway, it was my birth. Yeah, we're in the ambulance, and I heard the driver say to the other lady, should have put on the lights, and they were like, yes. So there was in the blue lights, you know, Nino, like to the hospital. And we're not too far from the hospital, so we're literally there in about 5 minutes. Again, I was just sort of like in a haze, like, because I was like pushing at this point. Like my body was like, oh, you know, like when you can't control that urge to push. So I was pushing. It was not a pleasant experience at all being in an ambulance in that uncomfortable bed. It's all bumpy and you're pushing. I think they were worried that the baby was going to be born in the ambulance, but he wasn't. But it wasn't long after. So yeah, got to the hospital, got me in my room, and I met another midwife there who was going to help with the delivery, but my community midwife stayed there as well, which was nice. So she actually got to deliver the baby. So within about 20 minutes the baby was here. They were sort of like pushing me, like they were like, right, you have to try really hard and push. Because I think they were worried that baby was going to be getting tired. I think his heartbeat had dropped just like a little bit, but it wasn't like too concerning. But they were like, you know, but you really need to try, you know. So obviously I was panicking. I was like, okay, this baby has to be born, you know, it's all on me now, I've got to do this. So again, you know, pushing and he was coming down fine. And then his head was sort of out, but I think his chin was sort of like stuck somewhere, and I was just sort of in my own little bubble, and I heard one of them saying, you know, should we press the emergency buzzer? And I just remember thinking, emergency buzzer? Like, and I heard them saying something about his face, so I think he might have been sort of like stuck like that, whereas I think they want the whole head to be out at that stage when you're pushing. And one of the midwives said, no, we'll just give it a minute. And I think I sort of panicked then, and I just pushed really hard, and I think he all came out. And they put him onto me. I think the first thing I said was, oh my god, he is huge. Like, he was a huge baby. And the second thing I said was, somebody help him, because he wasn't crying. Like, I could see, like, he wasn't floppy or anything. I could see he was fine, but I think he was just a bit stunned. So he's just like he wasn't crying, he wasn't like breathing yet. And so one of the midwives sort of rushed him away. But he was fine, you know. He came back not long after, and could hear him screaming in the corridor. So I knew he was fine and he was okay. Put him on me, and again, I think everybody in the room was just absolutely shocked at his size. Because nobody in my pregnancy, the midwives or the people at the scans, had predicted a very large baby. It just wasn't something that anybody expected for me. I think if they had expected a large baby, they would have suggested not a home birth. So yeah, so it turned out he was 9 pounds 3 ounces. So no wonder he wasn't coming down as quickly as they had hoped. My daughter was 7 pounds, so I think they were sort of expecting maybe slightly bigger, but not a huge baby. But he was a huge baby. But yeah, so one of the pleasant things that often happens when you have a huge baby is that you get a tear. And it turned out I had a 4th degree tear, so pretty much the worst degree of tear that you can get from delivering a baby. I'm not going to go into details of what that is if you are not familiar. You can Google that if you like, but anyway. So yeah, somebody checked me all over and said that a 4th degree tear. Oh yeah, and so actually before that, Mark arrived, obviously, right? Mark missed the birth. You know, it was just sort of me in the midwives, but I didn't actually feel that alone because like they were so supportive, they were so lovely that I was like, I didn't feel that alone. But yeah, Mark unfortunately missed the birth. He arrived about half an hour later, which was a little bit sad. I feel a bit sad. I think he feels a little bit sad about that, but given the circumstances, there was nothing else that was going to happen there, so that was the only option. And the next thing that happened, you know, I got skin to skin with him and it was lovely, and Mark came and everything was lovely, but then I got wheeled off to theatre to get stitched up, and I think I just, at this point, you know, everything had not gone to plan. The ambulance, the tear, everything was just, I just felt quite emotional then. And I just remember like lying in the huge theatre room with like a group of like 6 people, like doctors and nurses, and just like so many people in this room, and it's just me. Obviously Mark couldn't come in there, the baby couldn't come in there, so Mark got to stay with Aiden, which was nice that they got to spend time together then. But I just remember lying there like looking up at the big lights and just feeling so empty. Like I can't describe the feeling. It was just, I just sort of felt numb, you know. I just didn't really know what was going on, why this was happening. And it was just a weird, I don't know, I can't explain it. It was emotional, and I just felt empty. But yeah, so then I got stitched up. I got to go back and see Mark and Aiden, which was lovely. But again, since I had the spinal, I couldn't move my legs, I couldn't freaking do anything. It was totally like the opposite of what I'd wanted for my birth. But obviously births don't always go to plan, and that's, you know, that's okay. At the end of the day, Aiden was born healthy and safe. I was okay. Yeah, and that's really all that matters, to be honest. You know, I respect their decision to transfer in, because I think that was the right decision in the end, given that he was such a big baby. And I did lose like more blood than average, so when they took my bloods I was slightly anemic. Yeah, so yeah, the midwife actually said, you'll be happy you delivered in the hospital because of the mess that came out when he was born, with all the blood, more meconium, more, like she said, it was, I think it was on the floor, like there was just so much stuff that came out when he was born. But yeah, he was perfect. Obviously with meconium, the baby's got to stay in hospital 24 hours anyway, just to get checked over and monitored, just to make sure like none of it's gone into their lungs and they get an infection. But he was perfect. And you know, I was okay. Stitches painful, obviously that's gonna hurt, but you know, I was okay. I'm okay now. He's literally perfect. And yeah, so that pretty much sums up our story of a planned home birth turned hospital birth via ambulance. Honestly, like, it's a bit emotional, and like I did get emotional about it in the beginning, like to think of like the first few weeks, like the baby blues as well. She's like, whenever I thought about the birth I would like cry and I would just get emotional. But like, I've come to terms with it now, and you know, at the end of the day, he's here and he's fine, he's here safely, you know, and that, you know, that's all that matters really. And so obviously, since I had such a bad tear and it was quite traumatic, everything that happened, the midwife did say if I have another child, which I don't plan on having anymore, she said if I did, I would have the choice of an elective C-section, especially if it was going to be another bigger baby. But yeah, so this is Aiden, and we're so happy he's here safe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.